of having this last session just before lunch. I'm sure that if I had it after lunch, you'd definitely fall asleep from that very long title up there. But I'm going to try and see if I can help us bridge the gap between product master data management, as is what we excel in at Stibo Systems, and then machine learning and AI. Give you some use cases that you can take with you. So my name is Jesper. I've been with Stibo for 20 years or so. I'm currently Director of Product Strategy, so it's my job and responsibility to make sure that wherever we go, whatever markets we encounter, that we meet the demands of those markets, build the right roadmap, and do the right things, basically. Just before I start, there's been a lot of talk about crap data. And if you train machine learning algorithms on crap data, then you don't really get the results you need. Anyone from in here from within retail? Retailers? Anyone? Manufacturers? Yeah, a few. So if you were to build a system that would try to predict failure in let's say a mechanical device that you're building, and where you put in sensors to try and measure vibrations and noise and things like that, and the average failure rate that you already have is maybe 0.1%, and you train your system on the good data, the system that you build for machine learning, trying to predict when one of those devices will fail, it won't work. Because it's not just about bad data, it is also about training these systems with the right set of data. Same thing for retail. If you have an online shopping experience, a customer views a product on site but decides not to buy it. I mean, all the good shopping experiences, all the times where customers buy something, if you only use that data to train a system that tries to predict when the user will buy something or not, you will get faulty predictions. So let me try and just give you a little bit of insight. There's 3 takeaways for you today. A little bit about Stibo Systems, and that's mostly to provide the context of what I'm talking about. It is also, of course, to present us as a company, but mostly to give a context about how the things that I want to talk about when it comes to machine learning with product MDM. The second thing is some tips and tricks and do's and don'ts on best practice on machine learning. And the last is 4 use cases where we've actually applied machine learning in our product to make a better user experience and work with data in a more efficient way. Stibo Systems is, and I think there's been a lot of talk about data and algorithms and architecture stacks and things like that. The company I come from, it's very much about the people that we have in our organization. It's a company that is founded in Aarhus, headquartered in Aarhus, Denmark. We are privately owned, privately held, owned by a foundation. So all the revenue that we generate year on year can go back into investments, into our company, into our employees, into technology, into our logistics and all of that. We have had a tremendous growth over the last decade. We're now close to 600 employees and with a $1 million turnover year on year. So there is actually some proof that when you use a product master data management system such as ours, that you get your return of investment. We've got retailers, we've got manufacturers, we've got the automotive aftermarket, all having worked with our platform and have benefited from that. Take a look at a retailer like the Home Depot, reducing the time that they onboard supply items per item from 2 weeks on average to 2 days. That's a significant difference, and it gives them some market opportunities that they wouldn't have seen without it. There are other examples. We're not just product MDM. Wegmans have actually ended up resolving millions of customer data records. This is the whole thing about GDPR and all of that. They had customer data records and disparate systems across their enterprise. Using our technology, they managed to consolidate all those customer data records into single golden records for their customers. So data drives something. These are not our numbers. This is a research that was done by McKinsey. And if you're a data-driven company and you're successful with that, you're 23 times more likely to find new clients, 19 times more likely to create positive revenue, 6 times more likely to hold on to the clients that you already have, and 6% more profitable than companies that are not data-driven. These are not our numbers. These are from research. So if you look across that and all the talk we had about data today, I think there's still a key difference. This is not about data only. This is not about technology stacks. It is about the business. So when we go and engage with customers, we drive it through a business-first MDM mindset. It is not about the data infrastructure. It is not about IT plumbing. It is not about large, complex IT projects. It is about understanding what are the business cases that you drive, establishing this digital business core of all your product master data, and manage outcomes out of that. So this is, and this will tie into another part of my presentation where we talk about, so when do you actually go into an ML project, an AI project? It's not just about throwing machine learning and artificial intelligence in there and then hope that things will just magically solve itself. It's really about understanding what is the goal that I need to drive towards and what are the tools that I can then use to achieve that goal. So it's also about continuous iteration and innovation rather than the large projects. And I totally agree with speakers throughout today that have said, especially when it comes to emerging technologies, it is about failing fast. It is about trying something out and see if it works. And if it doesn't, scrap it and try something else. And we have personally, I have done that in my resort with Product MDM. We have tried something on ML. We have failed. We started over again. And there's a culture that's acceptable to actually do that. These are some of the market drivers that we're looking at when we build our roadmap. When we understand how we want to engage with the market, what are the market demands that we should meet? But I think it's also something you can take away to look at and try to categorize. As a manufacturer, for instance, you want to go global. As a retailer, you want to make sure that you have your customer experience in place, you have the ability to do personalization of the products that you sell. Everybody needs to be compliant, not just with GDPR, but if you're a manufacturer, you have all sorts of industry standards that you need to comply to as well. And then at the edge of that, all the emerging technologies. And as we do something with emerging technologies, again, it is about understanding what is the goal we want to achieve. It's not just about throwing ML and AI in there. So just to give you a little bit of insight on what is it that I'm talking about, what is it that we're actually selling, and try to link that to some of the projects that we have on machine learning and artificial intelligence. What you see here is a landing page for any user that will use our system. And what you can see up here, I don't know if you can see that down there, but it's pointing to that there are alerts on policy breaches, so you can set up data policies that will warn users if there's something that's not compliant with a certain data policy. You have all the normal things such as average data completeness, so you can get dashboards and scores for how complete and how good quality does your data have. And you will get information on the syndication of your items. So if you're within retail, you've onboarded a number of items that you want to sell on your e-com. What is the status? Is it actually on my website? Or is it just somewhere sitting in between? Then obviously you got all the standard things in an MDM system, such as you need to onboard supplier data, or you need to onboard data that you use to manufacture your devices or widgets or whatever it is. So just showing this to try and give you an idea of what it is that this system does, because at the end of the presentation I will come to some examples of how we then use machine learning and AI. The end-to-end solution that we have spans multiple domains. So as I said, it's not just about product MDM, it's also customer MDM, it's product lifecycle management, and it's cloud-based data syndication. But when you look at what you do in your business today, if you work with data, this is what you do. You acquire data from somewhere. You need to make sure that the data quality is in place. You need to have data governance in place so that you know what data you have in the first place. you have business process management and workflows that tells users when they need to do what. And digital asset management is a key. I spoke with a couple in manufacturing, and some of the things they have to manage on assets is quite tremendous. Omnichannel publishing, you need to make sure that the data is available to who needs it, where they need it, and when they need it. And obviously an open infrastructure that allow you to integrate other systems in the landscape. So one more slide on our architecture stack, and then I'll get to the machine learning piece. Because as you work through these processes of onboarding, of cleansing, of enhancing, and of sharing all that data that you have in your business, these are some of the places where we can inject machine learning. Let's take an example such as onboarding. If you can be more sufficient in onboarding data using machine learning, then that's a benefit. That's a business benefit. You will get a direct value out of it. If you can help users enhance the data and be directed and sort of instructed, if you will, to do certain things at a certain point in time, it will drive business outcomes. It will make you more efficient as a business. So with all that, then you may have some. We had a very interesting workshop, a pre-event workshop yesterday, where there was about 20 of us, and we met and we discussed what are the business cases that you have as a business, and where you've been thinking, oh, I should use machine learning here. Why haven't I done that before? We have in this room after lunch, sometimes there's a round table. I'll be sitting in one of these and be happy to discuss this more with some of you if you're interested. But we believe that there are 3 key things that you need to consider before you start an ML project, an AI project. The first one is to know your business case. You need to understand what it is that you want to drive, what business outcome you want to achieve. There's been discussions about ROI. I believe that you can actually build ROI on ML projects. One thing that you should not do is go hire very expensive developers and have them sat in a corner in your business and go do stuff before you actually understand what it is that you want to drive. It's obvious, but I've seen it many times. Let's hire some of these expensive guys, and then things will happen. It won't. You need to have the data available. And some of you may have data spread across disparate systems and all of that, but you need to have a consolidated view on your data, and you need to know what data you need, and you need to know what data you don't have that you also need. Because you may need to achieve that one way or the other. We'll get to that. But most importantly, I think you need to have a reason to believe, and that's maybe where some of these clever guys come into the picture. You need to have a reason to believe that you can actually do something about this business problem with machine learning. It's not that you have actually made a full sort of research program or anything that tells you, yes, we can do this, but you have to have a reason to believe that it can be solved. One good way to do that is to see if someone else has done something similar before and been successful. Just do some basic research online and see, well, have someone actually tried using some of this to understand if someone will buy my item or not, based on where they live or whatever. And then there's a good chance that you can also succeed with that. All right, so when we look at initiatives on machine learning, and this is a very rich one, but so you don't have, the slides will be circulated, I understand, after the conference. So I'm just, the key thing here is that as you look at business problems, you should categorize them into some areas. We've done that with 3 areas: process optimization and decision support. So that is about it's about getting things done faster and smarter. With the same amount of people, get things done faster, get things done smarter. The second thing is that with all the data that you have, you can discover new things. You can see things that you didn't know existed. Anomaly and outlier detection, as an example, trends over time to alert you to certain events that are happening in your system. And then get things done better, also outlier detection, but also data quality in general. And use machine learning for that. So, a few examples where we've been using machine learning, or are using machine learning. This slide is also rich, but it shows you a couple of things. First of all, it's a case for a manufacturer that has product master data. They send it off to our product data exchange, and what they're faced with is that this manufacturer produces widgets of some sort. Doesn't matter what it is, but it's widgets. And the retail, the trading partners, they all have their individual data standards. Amazon has one, Walmart has one, Quickie, Brandbank, the data pools, GS1, OneWallSync, they have different data standards. But the manufacturer needs to send her data to that channel in order for that channel to sell that item. Now that mapping can be done through manual tools and categorization and things like that, but wouldn't it be great if actually there was a tool that would suggest to you that, hey, if you want to have this t-shirt sold on the Amazon channel, well, then you need to categorize it like this. You need to take your own attributes, your colors, your sizes, and things like that, and map it to the Amazon data scheme. Same thing, well, just repeat it with the other ones. I mean, they all have different data standards. And by the way, it's not just retailers that are the only consumers of data. It's also these data pools, especially in manufacturing, electrical device manufacturing, and things like that. There are data standards such as eTIM and eClass and things like that. And those standards change all the time for whatever reason. But with machine learning, we can actually do something about that. Build into the system that when a user has categorized an item here, the next one should probably do the same thing. Another one, images. So I said you can host your assets on our Step Trailblazer platform, and we see it in retail that onboard images from their vendors, from their suppliers, that they may get the same types of images over and over again. We have examples where customers have 30% overhead in assets. And when I then look at that retailer's website and I see the same asset twice, I get confused. Why am I seeing the same thing twice? And moreover, there's operational costs of actually managing all these images that are potentially duplicates. So what you can do with machine learning and AI is you can actually build in algorithms in the tool, and we're doing that right now, that will allow the system to suggest to an end user that these images are potential duplicates. And then through a clerical review screen, allow the user to select the master and then delete the rest. Those are pretty heavy algorithms, but they actually work. They look at color spaces, they look at sizes and tags and all kinds of things to do this, carry out this job. So the first two examples I showed you are examples where we have built our own ML tools and techniques inside our system, a bit like one of my shall we say, colleagues from another company that's also here today. They have this Claire thing. We've also got our ML engine built inside our offering. But we don't always do that. And I think when you look at ML and AI, you shouldn't always go develop it yourself, or you should consider that there are a ton of cloud-based services out there that can help you. And what we've done with this example is that we're using Google Vision APIs, it's called. We can send out an image to Google Vision, and it will actually respond with some information about what is in this image. What kind of image is it? What's in this image? So this trainer, Google will say, well, with 99% likeliness, it's footwear. It's probably a shoe. It's blue. It has white in it. It's a running shoe, etc., etc. So, and that's great. That's fun, right? But you can actually use that for something. You can use it to help you categorize your products. You can use it for search engine optimization online and all different kinds of things. So, but there's one thing in this one that's interesting, and that is, if you send any image to Google Vision API, you may get something weird back. Because it will say, Trump was mentioned before, if you do that, it'll actually say businessman, but it will not say president. And that's because the Google ML engine has been trained on certain types of images. Do you know you got these captures when you go on a website and say, I'm not a robot, right? And then you have to, and then it says, okay, so you're not a robot, prove it. And you have to click certain fields in an image with cars in it. And what actually Google uses that to say, okay, part of this image where that user clicked, that's actually an image. That's actually part of a car. And that's machine learning. And when you talk about machine learning, you always have that sort of human, like with the clerical review, we could use that to feed back into the engine that, okay, the user said these images are in fact duplicates. So, but takeaway from this one is we can also leverage cloud-based services. Last one, I just want to call out, this is about understanding what goes on in the system and help the user to do the next right thing fast. So when you look at user behavior in the system, you can describe what happens. You can prescribe what happens, and you can suggest what should happen. And those are three very different things. The ultimate goal is obviously that the system learns from what other users have been doing, clicking around, doing certain things, bypassing the workflow tasks that they've had because they could do something faster in another way, and then actually have the workflow engine adapt to those pieces of information that again comes from the end user. So I think we're about at the end of my presentation. There are a couple of things that I would like you to remember. You can, I mean, this is my opinion, our opinion. But in product MDM machine learning, know your business case and verify the ROI, and still fail fast at the same time. Know what data you have and what you need but don't have. And then have a lot of data and have the right data. If you want to train a machine learning algorithm to do something, you have to have both sets of data, both the data that is right, if you will, and the data that is not right. All the data where the machine doesn't fail, and the data where the machine fails, the data where the buyer buys, the data where the buyer doesn't buy. Because otherwise, the algorithms will suggest something that is. If you Google, is the Earth flat? Google will try to find answers that are similar to the questions you've asked. You will not be confirmed that the Earth is in fact flat, but it's a risk because they have trained their engines based on looking for similar searches. Establish a reason to believe and be inspired by others, and then have this sound skepticism of what the machine actually tells you that you should probably very often think can this be right? So I think that takes us to about lunchtime. A little short, but that's all right. Thank you.